Retrograde amnesia. What is up, AlienARMy? I am Oculus, the alien next door, purveyor of esoteric lore. And on this channel, we discuss everything out of this world. Today's topic is just going to be talking about something that I dubbed retrograde amnesia. Now, this is a real thing. I believe it's a real, psychological condition, but
of course, because it's my motherfucking channel, I'm going to be using this term as a metaphor.
Let's look at the definitions of these words, shall we? Retrograde as a verb in the archaic definition means go back in position or time. Amnesia, in the context that we are going to be utilizing this word, means a partial or total loss of memory stemming from Greek amnesia, which translates to forgetfulness. How is this a positive thing in the aspect that I am talking about today? Well, let's play a game, shall we? We're going to talk about retrograde amnesia in terms of something that you are able to induce in yourself. It's sort of like your own personal psyop here. So stay with me. Retrograde amnesia as conveyed to me, as was channeled, because I had no idea where the fuck this came from, and I was just
having my philosophical thoughts, because that's how I roll.
And all of a sudden I channeled retrograde amnesia, which basically summed up what the fuck I was thinking about in that moment. So when we're thinking it in terms of, let's say, manifestation or trying to break free of an outdated paradigm, however you want to look at it, this can be beneficial for those things and much more in your psychological dealings with yourself and with your environment. So retrograde amnesia, as I explain here, is going to be somewhat of you are inducing yourself to forget things that happened in the past as if they never happened at all. Now, this is different from sweeping shit under the rug, where it's like, you know it's there and now there's like a big hump under the rug and you're just still sweeping shit under there, and it's like the rug is growing and growing and growing and now it's like towering over you. Nah, we ain't doing that. We're talking about observing it and then we're like, forget it, it's old news, it already happened. It's more of like a nonchalant type of thing. It's not sweeping something under the rug. It's not staring at something and wishing it would go away or purposefully ignoring it. It is none of that. It is looking at something that was unwanted. Perhaps it wasn't a pleasant experience. Perhaps you bore witness to something that was not jiggy and you, for whatever reason, can't seem to get over it. So this can be a hindrance in many different ways for obvious reasons, because if you keep replaying something in your mind, whether it's something even small, like you said something and it was sort of like you perceived that you put your foot in your mouth, or that someone perceived you weird because of what you said, same shit applies here, okay? It doesn't have to be a major thing. It can be something minute as well. So it all depends on how you are viewing it, because someone might view something as major to them and someone else might view that same thing as minor. So big, small, whatever the fuck it is, we gonna retrograde amnesia that motherfucker. So how do we do this? If we want to forget something that happened in the past, all we do is program ourselves to just have no recollection of that. So you can go in there and you can see it for what it was. Let's say we'll use a time where you thought you made a weird comment and you thought someone perceived you weird. You're just gonna go back in time with that backwards motion, that amnesia. You're gonna look at it and you'll be like, what? I don't even really remember exactly what happened there. And you start programming yourself to not remember what that was. Now, this is totally different than someone who blocks out a painful or traumatic experience. This is totally different, because typically with a painful or traumatic experience that happened, someone is just gonna shut down in that moment, and then it's gonna be creeping on up as they progress along their journey, and they're not gonna know why. That's the major difference. So it's not like you're blocking something out, shutting it off. If someone does that, they're not even going to be aware that there was a memory back there for them to turn away from and forget. So this is where you are already in awareness. You are already in conscious awareness that that thing went on. You are already aware of how it has affected your physical realm experience, your psyche, your emotions, your thoughts thus so far. And you'd be like, you know what, forget about it. You drop it. You say it's over. Retrograde amnesia, motherfucker. Bye-bye. Don't remember. You don't want to either. Oh snap. So that's what we're gonna do here. We're going to take forgetfulness and take moving backwards as we look at it from a perspective and we start to program ourselves saying, I don't even really remember what happened, right? So if it was something that you perceived as dramatic in the past and you kind of haven't processed it fully or been fully over it, you're aware that it's there, you're just like, you know what, I don't even really remember what happened. So the more you say that, the more your psyche is like, yeah, we don't really remember what the fuck happened either. And then it's gonna become so distant to you that it's gonna dissolve out of your experience. So the thing to keep in mind here is that when you observe something that happened in the past from the now moment, every memory that you have, and this is actually, I believe it really is a scientific fact. I don't know where I've seen this, but I've seen it all over the place, to be honest, so you could,
I'm sure, look it up easily, but
either which way, every time you have a memory and you are reflecting upon that memory from the now moment, that memory does change slightly. It does vary slightly from the first time that you recalled it to perhaps the second time that you recalled it to the third time, and so on and so on and so on. And this is something that actually occurs. So there could have been something that went on that you perceived as traumatic 5 years ago, but every time you remember it, even if it is still triggering you as something that was traumatic, you're not going to be remembering the same thing in the same way again. You're actually now remembering from a memory. So this is, I think we're on the same page, but let me just break it down one more time, okay? So your mind and your psyche, every time you have a memory and you recall that memory, it's going to be different because now you're not recalling the original thing that occurred, you're recalling the memory of the original thing that occurred. And then if you recall it again, you're now going, it's another step. You're recalling the first time you remembered that original thing. And then now you call it up again, now you're remembering. It's always going to be once removed, once removed, once removed. Every time you recall something, it might be what you perceive and you're considering as the same memory, but it's going to be different every time you bring it into your mind. So we are going to be doing the opposite here, which is retrograde amnesia, which is every time you want to bring up whatever the motherfucking memory you got going on, you're gonna purposely tell yourself, you know what, I don't even really remember what happened. Maybe you could tell this to yourself, maybe that you put a more negative spin on that event than it actually was, and you don't really remember, so you're like, wow, I was a different motherfucker back then. So at that point in time when that thing occurred, you have evolved since then, you were different then. So you go in and you tell yourself that's how different you were, that you perceived it more negatively than you would have now, and that also lessens the effect of that memory because you're going into something that, let's say, was traumatic, but from your now perspective you have evolved, so you're like, wait, it wasn't even traumatic. Your mind, your monkey mind, might have perceived it as you put your fucking foot in your mouth and said something stupid when the other motherfuckers you were talking to in that moment didn't even perceive you as putting your foot in your mouth. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, you start telling yourself that maybe your memory of that is that maybe you did overreact, and that is going to lessen the effect of that memory stemming into the future, because remember, the past, the present, the future, they're all going on at once. So that past moment, from your now perspective, you're looking at it and you're like, it wasn't that serious. I don't even really remember exactly what happened, you know? And then the more times from your now perspective you do that, the energy from the perceived past is becoming lighter, it's less dense, it's more ethereal, because from your now perspective, you're just kind of like, you know what, whatever, I don't even really remember what happened, it's all good, everything is all good now, it doesn't even matter what happened in that moment of time, I know who I am now. And then you step into your power of who the fuck you be in the moment, and you don't be that memory in the moment, you can recall it, but as I just stated a little bit ago, you're not even going to be recalling it exactly the same. So if you're not going to be recalling the motherfucking memory exactly the same every time you bring it into your mind, why not recall it as being less traumatic than you originally perceived it, as being more whatever, shit happens, right, that type of thing, instead of the way that perhaps in the past, every time you recall that memory, there was sort of like there's like a constriction going on, or you didn't much care for whatever the fuck you thought or you felt whenever you recalled that to you. So you go in, retrograde amnesia, that the more you go in and just like you start to program yourself, because that's what's going to happen. You're going to be programming your psyche, and your psyche is now going to be like, whoa, wait, I really don't even remember, right? Your subconscious mind, the more repetition you give it, I don't remember, you're purposely brainwashing yourself into retrograde amnesia of that past event that you didn't much care for. And in the now moment, your subconscious mind, if it doesn't have anything to remember, it's in a way wiping the slate clean. And if this particular memory involves another person, that's gonna also help lift the weight off of them as well, because we do know that everyone and everything is all connected, interconnected, intertwined. So if your memory involves another person, whether they consciously know it or not, whether you deal with that motherfucker in the present moment or not, it's still going to lighten whatever they had in regards to you, in regards to that situation. So they're gonna feel it. They're gonna feel uplifted too. They might not know why. They might not know that's because you released a memory that they were involved in with you. But since you reduce that charge and you release that memory and you just don't remember, they in turn, because they were a part of that memory and your energy linked to that memory was simultaneously as well linked to them, just because they were a part of it, you're also going to dissolve any potential negative cords that might have went on betwixt you and any other party involved in that situation. So it's going to be really like a win-win factor for everyone involved, because you're going to be like, I don't even remember that. And then the other motherfucker, they're going to start to forget too, but they're not even going to know why. Or they might not even, they're like, wait, that happened? Like, you know, and it might not ever occur to them. It might never cross their mind again, because you are the one in your universe. If you're connected to a situation negatively and that situation does involve another sentient being, that energy with that sentient being is still going to be present. But if that memory is linked in negativity, that negativity is still going to be in a way tied to those other individuals that were involved in your memory. So this shit is beneficial. I mean, you want to release motherfuckers and shit like that, you get on that retrograde amnesia shit. Let me tell you, if you program yourself to forget something, this is not blocking it out. This is not sweeping it under the rug. This is looking at it and being like, you know what, it wasn't that serious. I don't even really remember what happened. I don't even really remember what I said. I'm good now. So the more you do that, the less of a charge that thing has to trigger you in your present now moment. And especially if you're trying to manifest something, but you have a subconscious belief that might be blocking that retrograde amnesia, anything that makes you feel icky, you go in and you retrograde amnesia that motherfucker. And then you're going to start to feel more uplifted, because it's like you're brainwashing yourself and you're just like, I don't even remember. If you don't remember, ain't nothing wrong with that. You just don't remember. And therefore, just because of the energy involved, if that situation does involve other people, the less they are going to remember that situation in regards to you themselves. So one quick little thing here, just a little example. Let's say there was a situation, there was a party, and you thought you perceived yourself as saying something, and you put your foot in your mouth, and there was like a whole group of motherfuckers that were standing around, but you only remember thinking that one motherfucker there was kind of eyeing you, like you thought that you put your foot in your mouth, right? Like, so What's going to happen is that the more you retrograde amnesia, that whole situation, in turn, even if that person that you maybe wanted to impress, but you felt like you put your foot in your mouth, was there, and you're focused on them even though there were other motherfuckers around, that other motherfucker, the one that you were trying to impress but you put your foot in your mouth, so you thought, is going to be released of that memory. So now that individual who you thought you made a fool out of yourself in front of is totally not even remembering that you were even in the equation. They might remember someone else putting their foot in their mouth and not you, because you already energetically, you drew yourself away from that situation. You're not giving it a charge anymore. You're like, you know what, I don't even remember. And the person that you were trying to impress might not remember that either. They might remember someone else putting their foot in their mouth at that same party and not you, right? Or they could just not remember the entire situation. But that's just one example, in case it's like dealing with a whole plethora of people or whatever. It's like, what's going to happen is that because you energetically withdrew from that entire thing, because you're just like, I don't remember, anyone else involved, they might remember that memory. I'm not saying it's going to erase their memory, so they might have recollection of someone at that party putting their foot in their mouth, but they're not going to remember you in that equation. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's trippy. It's trippy. I mean,
let me tell you, it does work. It does work.
And we not sweeping nothing under the motherfucking rug. We're just going in. We're saying,
I don't really remember. It wasn't that serious to begin with. I'm the shit.
Right.
You go into it, retrograde amnesia. The more you focus on that memory, the more you say, I don't even really remember what the fuck happened, it's all good now. And the more you look at yourself in the now moment, who you are.
That cool, calm, collected, confident, stellar being.
That is you. And you're just like, I'm the shit. I know who I am now. I don't remember anything other than me being fucking pimp-tastic. You know what I'm saying? Thank you for joining me on this stroll today. I am Oculus, the alien next door. We will chit-chat again soon.